Good afternoon. It's Thursday, April 2nd. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News, broadcasting from Jerusalem. Marathon talks between the West and Iran continued in Lausanne, Switzerland today, with officials admitting that while progress has been made, there's still no deal. IBA's Margot Dudkevich has been monitoring the talks and brings us this report.
Talks in Lausanne between the West and Iran over its nuclear program were extended for yet another day today, with all the parties striving to bridge the gaps in the hope of announcing a breakthrough. 2 days past the Tuesday deadline to draw up a preliminary deal, diplomats in the Swiss resort said prospects for an initial deal were finely balanced between success and collapse. The P5+1 countries in Iran remained locked in marathon sessions yesterday that continued until the early hours of this morning. A decision was made to take a break and resume the talks later today. Last night, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius returned to Lausanne in what was viewed as a potentially hopeful sign that progress had been made. Prior to his departure, he told reporters in Paris that the sides are a few meters from the finishing line, but the last meters are always the most difficult. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier said they intended to remain in Lausanne today, in the hopes of sealing an agreement that will pave the way for a final and comprehensive deal at the end of June. This morning, Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said while significant progress had been made, there is still no deal. Last night he admitted that problems remain, but that he expects his Western colleagues to seize the moment and take advantage of the opportunity.
As I've said all along, the recognition by all parties that they need to exhibit political will and flexibility in order to move forward. Iran has exhibited that political will. Iran has shown its readiness to engage with dignity, and it is time for our negotiating partners to seize the moment and use this opportunity, which may not be repeated.
White House spokesman Josh Earnest told reporters last night that the time has come for Iran to make decisions. All options remain on the table, including a military one, he said.
If, in the unfortunate event that diplomacy is not successful, we'll continue to have a wide range of options on the table. Those options include coordinating with the international community to put in place even tougher sanctions that would compel Iran to come back to the negotiating table or to be more serious about the discussions. There is, of course, a military option that's sitting on the table, and this is, again, in the unfortunate circumstance that we could find ourselves in, which is that we're not able to reach an agreement. Then the president will have to consider that range of options, and he'll do so in close consultation with our P5+1 partners, the unity of the international community.
Tehran wants the United States, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and China to lift international sanctions that has crippled its economy and permit it to continue developing nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. The West wants to stop Iran from gaining the capacity to develop nuclear weapons. Other issues being tackled by the sides refer to Iran's nuclear centrifuge research program, the framework for the lifting of sanctions, and steps to be taken against Iran if it breaches an agreement.
I think by all accounts that I've heard, the outstanding issues are UN Security Council resolutions and research and development of Iran's nuclear program. And more specifically, the Iranians want all 6 UN Security Council resolutions to be terminated. The P5+1 has other ideas about whether or not that's a good idea. And then on research and development, Iran would like to increase the amount of research and development that it carries out on different technical aspects of its nuclear program over the duration of any deal that is signed. And the P5+1 would like to freeze as much of Iran's nuclear program as possible over the duration of any deal.
Some say that even if a preliminary agreement is drawn up between the sides, it is likely to be incomplete, and there are no guarantees a final comprehensive agreement will be reached by the end of June. Margot Dudkevich, IBA News.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry cannot be trusted to reach a nuclear agreement with the Iranians. That's the view of prominent U.S. Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who oppose extension of talks between Iran and P5+1 world powers.
Today, the news is that there's another extension to the deadline. There's been at least 3 or 4 extensions now. You served a long time with John Kerry in the Senate. Do you trust him as Secretary of State to come up with a deal with Iran that is going to protect the United States, that's going to protect Israel?
No. Doesn't it look a little unseemly when the greatest nation in the world, their Secretary of State, keeps begging for another day of negotiations? Doesn't that give the advantage, at least psychologically, to the Iranians, who at the same time at the negotiating table have gone, they now control Lebanon with Hezbollah, they now control Yemen, they now control Damascus, and they now control Baghdad. They're on the move.
At the end of the day, you can want a deal too badly. The bottom line is I'd like to end the ambitions of the Iranians diplomatically. They can negotiate as long as they want to negotiate. I just want a good deal. And here's what I'm afraid of. We're going to get a deal that will be, in the eyes of the Israelis and the Arabs, an unacceptable deal.
Turning now to coalition talks, and negotiating parties are stiffening their demands for entry into the government. But Likud negotiators say if parties are unwilling to show flexibility, they may lose out. Here with more is IBA's Eli Wagelander.
Amidst the ongoing holiday madness, while the country prepares for Passover, there's a little bit of political chaos as well. Some of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's prospective partners are angling for a bigger influence inside the coalition, which could well lead the Prime Minister to sign agreements with other parties first. First, there's Moshe Kachlon. His Kulanu party negotiating team is asking for additional portfolios as a condition for joining the next government. Last week, Kachlon said his party was demanding the Finance Ministry, the Israel Lands Authority, and the Knesset Building and Planning Committee. But in a meeting yesterday with Likud representatives at the Knesset, the negotiating team also requested the Construction Ministry, the Environmental Protection Ministry, and the chairmanship of the Knesset Finance Committee. No reforms will take place if we are not given the authority to accomplish them, said a party source. Likud, in response, called the Kulanu demands excessive, and that if they are unwilling to be more flexible, then Likud may first sign agreements with the Haredi parties and Yisrael Beitenu. One Likud MK said there are other options on the table as well.
I think at last the Prime Minister Netanyahu needs a very strong coalition. We invite all the parties in the Knesset to come and negotiate us. Till now, most of them from the right side, but the option that every parties could be in the coalition, they could be.
Also voicing displeasure on where negotiations stand, Bayit UD Chairman Naftali Bennett. He expressed his disappointment and frustration yesterday, telling party members that Netanyahu was, quote, giving us the runaround in the talks. Netanyahu thinks we are suckers and that he can push us around, he said. He thinks that we are in his pocket. According to leaks from the coalition talks, Netanyahu has offered Bennett the post of Education Minister, which is seen as a demotion from his current position as Economy Minister, and a far cry from the prestigious Defense and Foreign Affairs portfolios. Bennett claimed that during 2 closed-door meetings with the Prime Minister, he received no substantial offers. More meetings are planned today with Bayit UD and with United Torah Judaism. The Haredi Party has made it clear that it will not negotiate at all during the week-long Passover holiday. That is expected to delay final agreements, though both Kulanu and Likud have expressed willingness to meet next week to bridge their differences. Laura?
Thank you, Eli. Another important piece is in place in Israel's air defense system. The defense establishment has announced that David Sling, the anti-rocket network built to defend against incoming medium-range missiles, has passed another test and is on the path to becoming operational. With more is IBA's Ari O'Sullivan.
After the Home Front Command warned of thousands of rockets potentially hitting Israel every day in the next conflict with Hezbollah, the defense establishment has revealed part of its answer: a successful test of the David Sling anti-missile system developed jointly by the United States and Israel. The target missile was launched from an F-15 dozens of kilometers off Israel's shores. The unarmed Sparrow missile performs like a Syrian Scud, or the M600, in the hands of Hezbollah. David's Sling radars quickly detected the incoming rocket and launched an interceptor. This is the moment of impact, without a doubt an impressive image. Project coordinators say the system will undergo more final testing before it's handed over to the Air Force for operational deployment in early 2016. David's Sling is part of the missile protection umbrella developed to protect Israel, and this includes the Arrow and Iron Dome. These all enjoy financial support from the United States, and David's Sling is developed to intercept medium-range rockets that have a range of about 250 kilometers. U.S. defense spending has been severely cut in the past couple of years, but not the funding for the anti-missile development underway between Israel and the Pentagon's Missile Defense Agency. An indication of the strong defense ties between Washington and Jerusalem was evident in the comments made yesterday by visiting Speaker of the U.S. Congress, John Boehner.
The relationship between the United States and Israel is a strong relationship. We have shared values, and as I said earlier, while we have some political differences once in a while, from an operational standpoint, there's no daylight.
Just this week, it has been demonstrated with successful tests of the new David Sling system, which is a joint venture, American-Israeli project, which is successful, and we believe that next year it's going to be operational.
Ari O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Palestine has no right to join the International Criminal Court because there is no Palestinian state. That's the view of Israeli officials who say that the ICC erred earlier this year in accepting the Palestinian request for a preliminary examination into alleged war crimes stemming from the Gaza war over the summer. The Israeli reaction followed yesterday's formal acceptance of Palestine to the ICC in The Hague. Israeli officials went on to say that the Palestinian Authority government operates in partnership with the murderous Hamas terrorist organization that carries out war crimes quite similar to those carried out by the Islamic State, and that they should be the last ones who can threaten to file claims in the International Court. The Foreign Ministry called the PA's decision to join the court political, cynical, and hypocritical, adding the Palestinian intention contradict the goals of the court and will lead to a destructive politicization that will harm the stature of the court. The Palestinians responded that they are not concerned about the possibility of opening a can of worms, that they too will be investigated for war crimes.
You know, if the court will call me for whatever kind of request, information, investigation, I will be ready. I have no problem. If the court, through its official investigation, comes to the conclusion that, you know, they will ask us to hand over some Palestinians for investigation or what have you, we are not going to hesitate one second to do so.
As a result of Israel's failure to transfer money collected from tax revenues, the Palestinian Authority says that it has been forced to sharply cut salaries of civil servants. The Palestinian Finance Ministry announced that for the fourth straight month, workers will not receive their full paychecks. For the past several months, since the Palestinians' application to join the International Court of Justice, Israel has been withholding about $130 million per month in tax and custom revenues. Bowing to international pressure, Israel did agree last week to transfer immediately $400 million in back taxes. Unfortunately for the Palestinians, Israel first subtracted more than $400 million due in unpaid bills for Israeli utilities, including mainly the Israel Electric Company. An IDF soldier was stabbed and lightly wounded by a Palestinian man attempting to cross the West Bank security barrier into Israel. During the struggle, the soldier pinned down his attacker, who was arrested and taken for interrogation. The incident took place along the security fence near the town of Oranit, 20 kilometers east of Tel Aviv. 17 Egyptian soldiers and civilians were killed this morning when gunmen armed with rocket-propelled grenades and automatic rifles attacked several military checkpoints located in Sheikh Zayed and Rafah, crossing points between the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza, as well as in northern Sinai. Egyptian authorities said 8 people were wounded in the synchronized attacks, and in ensuing clashes with security forces, at least 7 gunmen were killed. No group claimed responsibility for the attacks. Ever since Muslim Brotherhood leader and former President Mohamed Morsi was ousted in 2013, hundreds of soldiers and civilians have been killed by terror groups operating in the Sinai. In Kenya, Islamic gunmen targeted a Christian college, murdering at least 15 people and wounding about 60 more. The incident took place at a dormitory at Garissa University, and witnesses said that people were gunned down as they ran for their lives. Security forces report that the incident is not yet over and that several gunmen have been cornered, but they are holding hostages and refuse to surrender. The terrorists from the Al-Shahab organization arrived at the dorm and began opening doors of rooms and asking people whether they were Christians. If they said yes, they were shot on the spot. Muslims were taken hostage. Israel is stepping up the process of so-called voluntary deportation to encourage illegal migrants to leave the country. The Population, Immigration and Borders Authority has sent out letters to some illegal migrants from Eritrea and Sudan, ordering them to leave the country within 30 days. According to Haaretz, the migrants are being encouraged to emigrate to Uganda and Rwanda. Officials say that those who don't agree to be voluntarily deported to their home countries or a third country could face imprisonment. In a statement, PIBA announced that Interior Minister Gilad Erdan has formulated a process to expand the voluntary return of infiltrators. At present, there are an estimated 42,000 Eritrean and Sudanese citizens in the country, including about 2,000 being held at the Cholot detention facility in the Negev. In 2014, about 7,000 migrants agreed to return to their home countries, and some 1,500 were deported to a third-party country in Africa. The migrants receive airfare, housing for a period of time, and an unspecified stipend. Antiquity agents on the trail of grave robbers have uncovered a trove of artifacts in southern Israel dating back to ancient Egyptian culture, possibly brought by the Israelites during their exodus. We get more from IBA's Ari O'Sullivan.
These artifacts were in a cave grave robbers were plundering in Tel Khalif near Kibbutz Lahav in the northern Negev.
These are oil lamps, and these are the method in which people used to light the darkness. Okay? These are small juglets in which people could store precious items such as precious oils or perfumes.
The finds date from the late Bronze Age, when Egypt ruled this coastal area known as Canaan. Egyptian culture was so strong it helped shape society, which adopted many of the customs and artistry. Some were produced in Egypt and brought by the Israelites or merchants, and others were made here with local raw materials.
These objects over here, which are Egyptian-style amulets. These amulets, each one of them essentially shows an Egyptian god or Egyptian deity, each one of which was essentially responsible for a different aspect of life. The Egyptians used these things primarily in the mummification process. Take 3 of these, put them on the left side, 2 of these, put them on the right side, and you're good to go. But the locals didn't do mummification. The locals essentially adapted the Egyptian practice of using these in a different form. So they're assimilating aspects of Egyptian culture within their own culture.
These and other artifacts were salvaged by the Unit for the Prevention of the Theft of Antiquities, who were staking out the cave.
We are all the time, day and night, in the fields looking for to catch the looters, to prevent the looters from looting our ancient history, and this is what we are doing.
Were you disappointed that you couldn't catch these guys?
Of course, but we are waiting for them. Eventually they will be caught.
There are countless archaeological treasures still waiting to be excavated. But folks, the Antiquities Authority remind us that it is illegal to hunt for artifacts outside of recognized digs.
We have also problem with the Israelis who are buying metal detectors and going to ancient sites to look for coins. And this is a major problem that we are facing now. I'm calling to the citizens of Israel not to look for ancient coins or metal in ancient sites.
Ari O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Since the establishment of Israel in 1948, some 500 citizens have been recorded as missing persons. A special Passover Seder was held last night in Tel Aviv by the Missing Persons Forum to bring attention to the issue. A Seder table was set at Rabin Square with empty seats for the missing. The forum claims that about 20 new cases occur annually. The forum is made up of family members of the missing persons who want to make the public aware so that they can help obtain information on their whereabouts. They are also pushing Knesset legislation to define the legal position of the missing. This would include official recognition and financial aid to search for those gone missing and for psychological assistance for the family. What are the most useful new Passover apps on the market? CNET gives a 1-minute rundown.
For a good overview of the Passover holiday and some of its traditions, look no further than the $2 iPhone app, Intro to Judaism. The app offers information, history, and cultural traditions on all the major Jewish holidays. It does a good job answering any specific questions regarding the Seder dinner. If you have young children in your family, they'll probably enjoy the app Passover, the 10 Plagues. This app uses animation to tell the story of Passover with fun sound effects and interactive elements. Short in education but big on fun is the kids game Let's Get Ready for Passover. In this app, search for all the leaving foods, items not allowed on a Seder table, before the timer runs out. And finally, anyone hosting a Seder dinner will need a good kosher cookbook app. Android users will enjoy Kosher Recipes by iFood.tv. It offers hundreds of recipes and thousands of cooking demos to prep for the big dinner. In San Francisco, I'm Kara Suboy, CNET.com for CBS News.
I know that some of our viewers are watching the news while heavily involved in Passover cleaning. Here's a tune by Denver-based folk singer Julie Geller, who gets out the chametz to Can't Eat This, a parody of MC Hammer's 1990 song, Can't Touch This.
Can't eat this. Can't eat this. Can't eat this. Can't eat this. My, it's Pesach time, it's coming fast. Gotta get ready at last. Grab a sponge, here's your mission. Saran wrap the kitchen. Grandma, what's hiding under her? You can never be too careful on Passover. We're Jewish, and we're crazy, and the crazy never ceases to amaze me. Told you, man, you can't eat this. That's how we roll. You can't eat this. Look in my eyes. You can't eat this.
In local money matters, the shekel strengthened in foreign currency trading, while shares were also up on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange on the last day of the trading week. Here are the late afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather forecast, and temperatures are predicted to rise again slightly tomorrow. Here are the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. And that's all for this newscast. Aaron Viner will be here tomorrow with more news from Israel and abroad. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield, wishing you a great weekend, a wonderful Passover holiday, and shalom from Jerusalem.